Oh, all right. Welcome to another office hours. Hello, Eugene.
Hello.
The
Hello.
Derby Share office hours.
Can you repeat the question?
Are you here for the DerbyJS and ShareJS office hours?
Yes.
Cool. Cool. Welcome.
It's my first visit at this. Is
Well,
that
welcome. We're just here, to talk about any questions or.
just to hear you?
Hmm?
I'm just to hear.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, this week we haven't had a lot of questions show up on the mailing list or in the chat room that necessarily would be best, need to be brought up here. In terms of announcements, Nate, you were just mentioning that.
Yeah, I've been spending a good bit of time just optimizing ShareJS recently, trying to make it remove leaks, make the server faster in a couple specific ways, and just kind of generally keep less stuff in memory. There's still some work to be done there to further optimize things, but as we've been scaling, I've basically just been making changes to make ShareJS more efficient. So in general, should just be the same thing but faster and using less memory, which is always great.
Yeah. And then I've last week wrote or adapted more documentation for apps in Derby. So figure out Derby apps, and like it goes over routes a little bit and the page, as well as some fixes to the component documentation that I had been working on before. So the API reference is fairly, there. There's still I have in the hackpad kind of a laundry list of to-dos of ways to improve it or things to explain. But I think like a lot of the main pieces that we want are in place. And so I think next I'll start working, well, right now I'm actually working on a visual redesign that one of our designers at Lever helped make. And so I'm in the process, I actually removed Bootstrap from in this branch and just styling it to spec, simpler and, I don't know. Faster, yeah. Bootstrap wasn't actually doing that much in this case, so to get exactly what we want is actually easier to just not use it. So yeah, that's happening, and then with that, I think we'll have a nice visual like template that we can use, because the next thing I want to do is start on a tutorial similar to the Meteor getting started tutorial, as well as the decision mapper one, but just have the current plan is to take people through building a real-time version of Reddit, actually, is the working idea, because that involves simple real-time things people can see quickly. It's not a to-do app.
But dangerously close to a to-do
right.
app.
It's close enough to where it's like, oh, like all the nice properties of a to-do app, where it, like, modeling your data and mapping it to a view is all straightforward. And there's users, and users are more natural in this, I think, than in to-do apps. But so we're working on that, as well as sort of starting a guide, which will be more like a textbook. But the current plan is to just be able to write sections of it without having the whole thing done, so that there's definitely some things that we've noticed from the community and also the team here at Lever, where we have to do a lot of explaining. So, like for instance, reactive functions will probably be the first thing that I write a longer form guide about, because there's so important, and it's a pattern more than an API thing, right? So there'll be a chance to explain that. So that's kind of what's going on with the documentation. I have appreciated, there's definitely been some community contributions of bug fixes and pointing out like errors in the documentations. And what's really been helpful is people pointing out when stuff is slightly confusing or just not, quite clear enough. And then I've added some examples to help with some of that stuff. So that's definitely really appreciated.
Yeah, so Ian's spending Ian's spending a substantial amount of time on docs now. So it's something which we should see some substantive improvement in over the next few weeks. So if anybody has specific requests for stuff they want to see in the documentation, if you could just add comments in Gitter or whatever is kind of the most convenient way to represent it.
Yeah, and I'm also doing stuff in the DerbyJS hackpad. So I've got like a lot of the outlines and ideas, and I've seen Arthur contribute there as well with notes and ideas, and as well as Matteo. So that's been helpful too. So I'm going to link that in the notes, and I think we can just keep using that. All right. So I think unless you guys have any announcements, we can open it up to any questions or discussions we might want to have.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, you actually joined just as we were opening up to question time. So
I wanted to ask Ian you about the guide that you want.
Yeah, what's up?
Right. So you're thinking about something similar to Discover Meteor book?
Actually, the guide itself, I was thinking more like the tutorial. I was thinking more of that, like step by step, and there's like there's sort of like each step has the code changes from the last one. That was what I was going to model after Meteor's thing. As for a book,
I'd say it's a little premature.
Yeah, I think that's a much bigger project than I'd like to commit to right away. Like what I feel like is that there needs to be a space for longer form explanations that describe best practices or why you want to use this or that. And I think that eventually that could be sort of curated into something book-like that you could read cover to cover and really understand everything about Derby. But I think for now it's more like we need a place to write those things and for people to be able to come to it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense. Okay. Well, cool. If you write this guide, it's gonna be awesome. On the Reddit, but I think they have something similar in the Discover Meteor. That's why I asked you, because they also talk there about the ways to build some kind of a Reddit online thing with comments and stuff.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh,
Yeah,
I see. What you're building, a real-time social news app, completely. Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Well,
All right.
No wonder it seemed like a good
else.
idea. Damn it. All right. Well.
The other thing too is like since Derby's APIs are changing like a decent amount, like it could just be that like a book it's not the right time to write a book, like because if the APIs are changing all the time, then like then you have to update the books and then like republish new editions. So it might just make sense to wait until like we have like a 1.0 release or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say like we're obviously starting to hone in on some APIs, but definitely there'll be more work in terms of finishing up the APIs. So
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Also, I don't like. Well, is this an actual book or is it an online book?
It's both. I actually think it's kind of nice.
It's an online book. It's an online, and they sell the English version of it, but versions on all the other languages are free. So like in Russian and Polish, it's free.
Huh.
Interesting.
Cool.
They have a pretty interesting monetization stuff going on.
All right. Well, I guess I can't build Reddit. Damn it. All right. Back to the drawing board. We'll make something more fun. Cool. Well, that's good to know. But yeah, so the other thing I was hoping actually was that writing the tutorial would help sort of, as you're doing the tutorial, you want to have guides that you could link to be like to have more in-depth explanations. And I think that's probably how I haven't read this book, but probably what they're doing right is they have these sidebars they're saying where it takes you through building the app, but then it explains why things are like that and what's specific about Meteor. This is really interesting.
Yeah, like you should just read what they have already written, like because they basically they describe the same stuff, which well, lots of things that Derby is also is used for. So we can just grab lots of valuable information from what they have already wrote there. At least the structure of the way they describe how Meteor works can be similar to the way we can describe how Derby works.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. Man, it's $100 more for a T-shirt. That is an interesting monetization. We got some Derby T-shirts.
I'll make a T-shirt if we can sell it for $100.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll be reading that. That'll be helpful. Yeah, any other questions?
Well, regarding, I think we also had a section of the showcase before, where we showcase different projects, right? And while you was talking about the book, I was thinking that I had an idea before to write something similar to Discover Meteor, but based on my Type for Fame project. I think you should remember it. It was I posted it as an open source project like 2 years ago or something.
What project? What was it called? Sorry.
Type for Fame. I can give you a link.
Yeah.
I think I updated it recently to be on the latest version. Oh, but like it used to be like with different like Russian, English languages. Right now it only has a specific text for the programmer Dvorak, so it's gonna be pretty hard to type anything. But like this kind of like an application I was thinking about makes what can make sense to like even think about writing some kind of a book. The thing that can be like really collaborative or like multiplayer stuff, like something like this, because guys on the Meteor, they already have a book written about like that is telling people how to write the Reddit. So if we write the same book for Derby, it's gonna be like a plagiat because it's gonna be about the same thing.
So you're saying you wanted to use this game as an example?
I mean, I was thinking about what makes sense for Derby to have a book, something like Meteor has, and like they have a Discover Meteor based on their online Reddit, and so we should have a book based on something else, which is going to show that Derby has like cooler features than Meteor.
That's true. This is interesting. It's like a race to type.
Yeah, it's.
I don't think I've seen this before.
I think you wasn't working in Lever when I was posting it. It was like 2 years ago. Yeah, I wrote it originally on like 0.3. It was very long time ago. Then I rewrote the whole architecture a couple of times in my free time. So like it's kind of like just a small project. that I was building while I was learning Derby 2 years ago, without any documentation, without anything. It was really hard.
Very impressive. Nice.
It was like nine circles of hell. Really hard.
But you came out, tempered like steel on the other side. Stronger. Yeah, no, it's a good idea. I think doing a more original example that highlights some of the strengths.
I'm just saying that when we're going to be ready for the book, when the 1.0 is going to come out, Derby version, then like we should choose some kind of a more original project, not the same thing that Meteor has already used to write their book.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even now, for the first tutorial, I'll choose something different because I just didn't realize that. Yeah. What do we think are some of the features of Derby that we can highlight that shine above Meteor? Is OT like the big one?
OT. OT is the main thing. There should be something.
The other thing is being able to do rendering of HTML directly is actually something that's pretty cool.
What do you mean directly?
You can't use Meteor to render HTML, period. It doesn't really support it. You have to use like Phantom or something crazy like that. So that's just a feature that basically the only two things that do that well are React via like reducing the React virtual DOM into HTML through another step, or Derby. So something that involves producing HTML like emails is actually pretty cool. Especially if there's a good use case for putting the same templates in emails as well as like a live DOM.
Right. Yeah. There's probably some like. Is there any API that lets you just send an email for free if you don't send an email? Yeah.
I think you can use like SendMail, like on the Unix program.
Oh right, if you have like SMTP. Yeah, just a node.
Guys, can you fix your microphone? Your microphone is kind of crappy right now.
You can't really hear me right now?
Well, we can hear you, but it's distorted a bit.
Like staticky.
Some noise, yeah, some, I don't know how to say.
What about now? Is it even?
No, still like a distortion.
It's some click, I think. Yeah, something like that.
No, but I think it's just the mic itself. I don't know if.
You try unplugging it.
There's always that. Let me also see.
It's using the mic.
Still staticky?
Yep.
Oh, that's a shame. Let's see. Still?
No, it's okay now.
It's better now?
Yeah.
Plug it back in, just like you said. Oh man, computers. Wish I could fix more bugs like that. Cool. Any other questions or ideas? What can we do? Let's see.
I think Meteor has the same component-oriented structure, right?
Component what structure?
Component-oriented structure.
Oriented structure, yes. Yeah.
Architecture, right? So it's gonna be the same.
Is it?
It's been a while since I've actually checked. Early on they didn't. I don't know what they added recently. So To be honest, I'm not totally sure. We could check.
Mhm. I actually visited their, they have like an annual conference or something on Meteor in different cities. I visited it over here, and Meteor looks like a lot different than Derby. There are lots of stuff, like even when you look at code, it's a lot different. So there should be more changes between the how we write code in Derby and Meteor, and that this can be a feature to highlight. Maybe they don't do such good component oriented architecture that Derby provides.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like as a general characteristic, I would say Meteor is a little bit more like PHP in terms of like design philosophy. It's like really easy to get going, very easy to build out like a simple thing from scratch, and Derby's a little more optimized toward large projects just because of our emphasis. So a lot of the extra complexity in Derby is because it's a result of like things you need for bigger projects, and so the code does end up looking a lot different. And I think it's better designed for big apps, basically. So there's probably a lot of specifics, but that's kind of where that comes from, I think. Like Meteor is specifically designed to just be the simplest possible thing to get going. So it doesn't necessarily have as many abstraction layers, and like I think they don't really have components that are as full featured, probably.
Yeah, so this can be one of the main features of Derby compared to Meteor, because considering that like Meteor is so well marketed right now and people don't know about Derby at all, they're going to just compare Derby to Meteor all the time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where we just need to write some comparison articles. Like,
yeah,
there are actually really large differences, so it's not that we need a huge amount of marketing as much as just like the right marketing, and that'll carry a lot of weight.
Yep.
I think it's gonna get better like as we improve the website more too, because like right now it's not super friendly for someone who's just getting started. We're definitely like making progress towards like making it more friendly, and like that way, like if something like a Hacker News article like mentions it, or something, Hacker News comment mentions it, like people will be able to like get the gist of what it is much faster, I think.
Cool. So, sorry, I'm kind of distracted by something. So I think next steps, Ian's going to basically take forward a lot of this writing, and he will be kind of using me to get information, but will be leading the charge. Yeah, we'll take all this into consideration. So any other things going on where people have been using Derby, have specific questions, would be good to get them answered if we could while we're all here. No? Okay. Well, that's cool.
If you think of an app, I'm just trying to think of like something slightly less or slightly more complicated than a to-do app, which the Reddit thing was a favorite there. But if you think of something else because the OT thing is really interesting, right? And not a lot of apps are examples of using OT because for this it's hard to do, right? So
we could build my pet project.
What's that?
I've wanted to build a collaborative email client for a long time.
Collaborative email client. That's interesting. So,
It's literally an email client, except that we can edit messages collaboratively. Google Docs plus email.
I see. So it sends
$1
the
million.
email or whatever. So you can work on the email together.
Yes.
Okay. And it can support some like HTML rendering.
Yeah, exactly. The only problem is that we don't actually have like a proper editor for HTML right now, though it's kind of like
use CodeMirror or something.
Well, we can't really do OT without, or we can only do it on text. We just can't do it on HTML yet.
Well, I mean, you can treat the HTML as text.
It's not right. It does not work correctly. As I've said 100 times, and Joseph has said 100 times on the mailing list, you actually need an OT type to do rich text correctly. Which is why we were going to use Jason's thing, and in fact, it is mostly integrated with ShareJS, but I don't want to block this on that work. So that might be the next step, is to support HTML and text emails. So that would also be a great demo of the rich text. We don't really need it to render HTML, actually.
Well, what I was saying is like you could like do straight HTML, not rich text, basically. Like it wouldn't be as great because it wouldn't be rich text, but you could literally just collaboratively edit raw HTML.
Oh, yes, I see what you're saying.
Right, so it's like, oh, I'm going to write a plain text.
It's literally plain text of HTML, yeah. You could do that.
Yeah. I mean, if it's just want to make the point, like, because the other thing is that you could write it and you could get the preview, which is sort of like markdown style.
Yeah, that's true. It could also support markdown.
Yeah, and then we could actually, the demo could have
different modes.
Yeah, like you could start with just plain text, be like, oh, we want to like make more authorship things. Let's use this. Let's use this.
Anyway,
that's one idea.
It has lists. It has your inbox. It has could have real-time collaborative stuff because you could collaborate on emails. It has the real time of emails arriving. It's a little more complicated on the back end, but if we could use something like Nihilus as the back end, it might actually be pretty easy. I bet you the Nihilus guys would enjoy the example as well.
It's interesting.
Mailgun.
Right.
It's an idea.
Well, actually, as a rich text, I think Share already supports the rich text OT type, right? There is JCam who's working on it.
Jason wrote a rich text type that is mostly integrated with Share, but I just haven't done the final work to make it like really easy to use it. It's the main issue.
Oh, that was another thing, is that all the examples of it, none of them are live bound.
Yeah.
They're not two-way bound.
Well, they're using Quill, right?
Yeah.
So Quill handles that. Or do you mean something?
But it was like if someone else changes the document, there was nothing feeding those changes back into Quill.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. All right, well, we'll look into it. That could be an interesting thing to build.
So the first version of it gonna be a collaborative email agent on Markdown.
Just an idea. Happy to. It's just something I've been thinking about for a while, and I think it would be a very, very unique example. I don't know if anybody else has any bright ideas. Definitely something that has collaborative editing would show off Derby the best.
It's also cool because you show that Derby can deal with the server-side code really easy because it's just a node of the server side.
Yeah, and I bet I think so. Nihilus is a startup that we have a lot of like friends at. So they're doing an email backend and basically have done all the hard work to like support complicated email stuff. So we could probably host something with them. Should be good. One of our employees' roommates works at Meadows, so
Nice.
he also went to my college.
Okay, but which college have you actually been to? So you both from the same college?
Yeah, it's called Olin. It's outside of Boston. It's really small. There's like 75 students in each class.
Oh. Okay.
So having gone there is noteworthy.
Actually, I think that the same thing, like you are from the same college, and there are lots of now Russian developers who are from the same college. It's gonna be, it's pretty much alike.
Yeah, no,
We
totally.
just grab our friends and like college friends to work on the same stuff, and that's when everyone is actually from the same place.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, any other ideas for examples while we're brainstorming? If not, that's cool. But we talked about doing a collaborative game as being a cool example also. It needs to be kind of something pretty, where the logic is pretty simple. So my personal favorite suggestion was 2048 because it just really isn't very complicated to implement. So something where like the majority of the code wouldn't just be the game, or it wouldn't just be like controller logic.
And I think the kind of cool game is if you had like a text field, and then there was, let's say you had like 4 players or something, and it colors in block, like sort of a paragraph style, randomly colors the blocks so that each person has to write enough to fill that colored length. And then, so the other person can't fill their color unless the first person does, and like everyone gets more points if like, you know. And so it would kind of necessitate the collaborative nature, and maybe you throw time into, so, you know, as people are editing and like messing stuff up, it like kind of forces people to edit the same paragraph at the same time if they want to get a high score. I don't know what that might look like.
Yeah, can be something like this. Well, we have those online games. Like it's kind of the very sense of our main project is to have those online games that you're talking about. But I don't know whether there is some easy example of what we're doing. All of our code is already like part of the bigger framework. So, but like what we usually give our developers to start learning Derby with is a simple game which is called a shrimp game, where a couple of players, there are 3 players, and they try to negotiate on how much, what is the amount of pounds each player is going to, how many shrimps each player is going to catch each day. And there is also like a professor who controls it, and players can control, can fill in their own values, and like professor can see that everything is changing automatically in real time. But it's kind of like a more complicated example. It involves two roles. It involves a professor and a student to see the actual real-time features of it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges here is that I think the tutorial you should be able to use it with 2 browser tabs open next to each other and see the real time, right? So like, even if you can't control both things at once, and that's sort of a challenging constraint, right? Because the whole idea would be to get many people to play with it. But if you're trying something out, if you're trying Derby out for the first time and you're just by yourself coding it up, you want to be able to bring things up and change something and see it, and so it's almost like at least some of the real time, like the problem with that too is that the OT doesn't really shine unless two people are actually using something at the same time.
Right. Well, we could do a thing with robots. So
that's true too.
Always a fun robot is a Markov text generator. We could every time. It's good every time. We could just train a Markov text generator model off of tweets or something like that,
right.
And then have a robot that like just says random stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually working on something like that with ngrams.
Yeah.
So
similar concept. So something like that would be fun to interact with, would be good. I mean, you can imagine something that's like a Twitter clone, but it's not really collaborative. It's just, different messages. It shows off real time. It just doesn't show off collaborative editing.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be nice if like maybe as you type the text, the other thing edits what you type, or something like that. I'm kind of spitballing here, but
right.
Like maybe as you write a document, there's like a robot that goes back and makes random edits to it based on a Markov or ngram style approach, where it like does statistical matching.
The cool thing with doing it with ngrams too is like you could use the text that's already there as like a seed for like generating like the rest of a sentence.
There could be like a add more, add less button, right? Like expand out what I've written here into more text. It's kind of stupid.
It should just be like an email client that writes the email for you.
Yeah. Oh no, we can make
put them together.
we could train the Markov thing on recruiting emails. That thing where it's like, as you're typing your recruiting email, it kind of like fills it out for you. Like, or you could do it on any set of buzzword laden like correspondence, right? Like, I don't know.
I'm spelling a new lever feature.
Yeah. That's what we're doing here.
We could easily get some it'd be very easy to train a model on recruiting emails. They all sound shockingly similar.
Yeah, someone even like made a database of it, like where you could submit the recruiting emails.
Amazing.
So I think there's probably already a Markov chain for it, or a Markov. In fact, let me Google it. No. Damn. Somebody did it on Arrowhead, and that's what it takes. Anyway, looks like there's not one for.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I
like robots is a great idea. It's sort of like, or it's like the Shakespeare, like the monkeys, like you have infinite monkeys, they'll type Shakespeare thing.
Well, you can just train a Markov model on Shakespeare and make it super meta.
Mm-hmm.
With a machine is one way to do it.
It would be funny if like you used like input from like the actual example. So like let's say we just had this hosted somewhere and like people started typing in random sentences, and then like you train the robot based on data that like people are inputting. So it's like, I don't know, or like recursive almost.
Yeah, though I think That has a tendency to just devolve. You don't necessarily want to make self-reinforcing loops on the internet because they just produce porn or profanity.
That's true.
But I mean, this is still a great point because it sort of frees us up to, it's like, because I kind of want something where the collaborative text is like a feature of this app, right? Not like the only thing. Because I think that also highlights one of the strengths of Derby is that you start thinking about adding like the collaborative aspect to things that you previously wasn't easy to just say, oh, I'm going to make this one piece like something that anyone can edit. But now if we make an example, we can be like, oh, here's also a robot that will connect to your app and, you know, generate stuff so you can like interact while it's doing that. That's kind of cool.
Cool. All right. Well, we should probably wrap up unless there's any other questions people have.
Yeah, good.
Cool.
So I'll get back to
All
work.
Good to see you all.
Yeah.
See you next
Same
week.
week. Yeah, same time next
See you
week.
next week, guys.
It will be the same amount of an hour earlier.
All right.
Yeah.
Later.
Okay.